Here it is, 7:30 in the morning and Monday, and we're looking at summer storms still. Yeah, part of me thought, oh, you know, the breakaway, maybe I'll want to quit, but I don't know. I had a bad enough time with 1822 MX that this is looking less unattractive at this point. So, where are we? We are at 9 a.m. still on July 1st. Yeah, it's funny, there's no day marker. I find that weird. And what do we got going on? Well, Union First Corps has largely been driven off Harris Ridge. Buford is still up there. I got to get him the hell off, but Schurz and Barlow to back him up from 11th Corps have pushed Heath away, and Heath was giving up the fight as well, and are giving a little bit of room there. First Corps is still caught, I think, somewhere in here, a little bit of it. We got Reynolds here, but McLaws is back here. We've got to get the big commanders, Reynolds, Doubleday, out of there. We do not want them up there. We got 12th Corps coming up to relieve them. What else is here? This is part of 11th Corps. We'll be heading up that way. This is part of 5th Corps. 5th Corps is going up to help relieve 3rd Corps, which took a bit of a beating from the Confederate 2nd. More of 5th coming here. So all converging, heading up. Meanwhile, Stewart's Cav is getting blocked off here by some of 6th Corps. 2nd Corps moved up here. It was intending to do that kind of job. I don't know what I'm going to do with 2nd Corps. I got more of it coming up here, more of it off board. More of 6th over here off board. Merritt's Cav probably going to come on fairly soon. There's a couple of Confederate Cav kicking around back here, which is protecting a potential line of retreat right now. But the Confederates think they're doing a pretty good job right now. So, yeah, I mean, they're hoping to defeat the Army of the Potomac where it stands. If we walk over here, we can kind of see it. We got some of Kilpatrick and Huey over here facing where they thought Stuart was, but he's faded away. Pickett's 1st Corps coming up into play to join up with the rest of Pickett's part of 1st Corps coming up into play to join the rest of Longstreet up here. 3rd Corps kind of fatigued after its battle. If we look at the numbers, we probably want to give everybody but Anderson a rest pretty soon. Right now, Heath is in R&R orders. For the Union, you can see 3rd Corps and 1st Corps have both been pretty badly hit. 1st Corps, I don't know if he's reached, Robinson's reached Broken yet. And Humphreys is real close. As to armies, yeah, the Confederates took a few, hits to their morale due to unit losses and whatnot, but it's not that big. But the Union has lost about half their army morale. And then the Confederates also have like a 100-point bonus, which they only get in the operational game. They should have like a 200-point bonus if they're playing the historical game in terms of time. But yeah, they don't get that if they're actually. So if I were playing the operational game to achieve historical results, the Confederates would come in with like a 200-point benefit to their game. Whereas if I were to play just the tactical board without worrying about, the operational game at all, by the historical entries and everything, which would give that 200 points in the operational game, the Confederates get no bonus of that sort. So there's something very wrong there. We've talked about that before. Do I want to play? I'm going to try to do the command phase here. I got like an hour of sleep or something. I've got to go do something at 6 p.m. But, so I got to get some sleep. But right now, I went out and did some yard work for, I don't know, just hauling some mulch crap around. And I got like 3 or 4 buckets worth of it and patted it down and everything. But yeah, it kind of fatigued me. So I figured I'd come up here and at least give you the, hey, what's going on? And let's get started if we can. Funny is, it's nice and cool downstairs. It's nice and cool outside. It's definitely cooler outside. But yeah, it's like baking up here already. And we're hitting like, you know, mid-90s today, I think it's supposed to be. So it's gonna cool down a little bit, but not a terrible much. I'm already tired. First, the Confederate extra supply wagon that was being protected by these 2 cav units, it's coming on the board. I'm going to send one of the cav units back for it. All the cav are under march orders, no biggie up there. Out here we did quite a bit though. And I think I might be spending these 2 points to roll into like maybe a 1 p.m. Attack for start accumulating points for a resumption of attack. I haven't completed the attacks that I'm doing right now. See, the thing is, points that I spend directly to order units to do stuff right now are kind of more effective because they prevent me from going inactive. I could go inactive even if I get those points, and that's kind of like, you know, if you think about like Longstreet on day 3, he had his orders real early, but kind of refused to do them. Now Longstreet is really unlikely to go inactive without playing with that optional that I'm not playing with. I gave attack orders to all of Ewell. He's now within range of Lee, so I'm able to like devote a point there. He has no built-up points though. But both 1st and 3rd Corps had some built-up points. He is working on his R&R. He's actually acquired it now. I just keep pulling back, hoping that 11th doesn't chase me too hard. But if they do, they do, you know. I don't know what happens if they do. Anderson's in the cup. Pender's got direct orders. 1st Corps, I gave attack orders to McLaws and Hood. And I gave, I think, march orders to Pickett because he's got a long way to go. I'm going to put him down here, I think, to put some pressure on any kind of attempt that 12th Corps might be doing. And Stuart gave him direct orders. He generates himself his own little corps of 1 command. But yeah. And now I guess I go to the Union. But yeah, I think I'm not so sure how important initiative really is to me right now. It might be very helpful. See, that's the whole thing. Do I want Lee to save his 2 points for the initiative roll, or do I want to throw him in for, you know, being able to do more a little later in the day? I feel like, yeah, I can probably get the recoveries underway, but I don't know when this battle is going to end up here, right? Like I'm saying, oh, by 1 p.m. I'll be recovered and ready to fight. Yeah, maybe not. maybe it's more important. Like I still have 1 point or 2 points left for 3rd Corps coming next hour, and maybe better to just, you know, roll a couple points, give 1 to Ewell, give 1 to Longstreet. I don't remember. I think you can just declare, you can just put it for any turn in the future, essentially. I had a nice bank for both armies. All right, on to the Onion. Decided things that are going on right now are too important not to spend points on. Yeah, let me actually give 2nd Corps points as well. So Lee is not going to spend anything on initiative. He gave first and second corps a point each for next turn to give them a little bit more activity. That's where the hammer is going to be. Third corps, they need to recover, as far as I'm concerned. But let's take a look now at the Union. And I kind of decided that after I started working the Union points out. Now, I screwed up. I forgot where Meade was. He gave orders to Geary. He gave points to Geary, or to, I'm sorry, to Slocum up here, but not to Birney, who's now in command of Third Corps, which he actually was in range of and probably should have given a point to. But Third Corps got enough points anyway, so all of First Corps, Third Corps, Buford's Cav, and Gregg's Cav, which is now on the line, are under defend orders. I got a problem though. A lot of the Union units are kind of badly positioned. I'm going to deal with that. That battery can't be charged. Are badly positioned in relation to their leadership. So something like, I've got Howard back here. He was back here to wake von Steinwehr up, who had gone inactive in the middle of his march to the field, right? Well, that's not where I need him. I need him closer to here, where he can command the attack. Now I don't have any attacks orders for these two units, so they're gonna kind of just sit there, more or less. They're in the cup. It's possible I could end up getting, and I can't put direct orders or anything on them. And I've got that problem in a lot of places. So like 5th Corps, which went up here to relieve 3rd, well, the 5th Corps leader had to run down and wake somebody up. So Sykes is down here. Or maybe he just wasn't up there ever. But I think he was. I think these guys, oh no, I think these guys got like the initiative order and moved into place due to that. I'm not positive. Anyway, I'm finding myself in that kind of position with a lot of the Union units. So like 6th Corps is up here in a couple of interesting places, but their commander was back here waking someone up again. You really need to get your divisions of a given corps together so that they can operate together. And that's one thing that kind of went wrong with me sending all the Union forces in. The commanders have to run back and get units, or units become very slow to the field while the commander does stuff. But, you know, I mean, like these guys, they weren't really doing anything. They were moving up to help protect against Stuart or whatever, but then Stuart scooted around them, and they were doing fine with what they were doing. But now I kind of want a commander up there. Now luckily Hancock's not far away. In fact, most of these can move pretty damn quickly across the board, so you know it's not going to be multiple turns that they're out of there, but it is a choice between, hey, do you want to directly command the units that are in the field and have them actually do anything of value? Because without a corps commander there, you can't do anything. Even though the Army commander's here, he can't issue orders outside of the normal hierarchy. He can't just, like, you know, order 6th Corps to dig in here, which is what they were supposed to do. But their commander ran away, and now they're just going to party. Is that reasonable? Yeah, I think so. So here's the thing. The things I did that are causing me problems, like sending Sedgwick back to see what he could do to get right moving, that's the kind of thing that actually probably wouldn't happen in the battlefield. Sedgwick would have stayed up here with his units and kept them under command because they're in battlefield situation. And wonder about, well, I wonder where good old Wright is and why he's not showing up. Rather than, I think I'll go find out where Wright is. You guys take care of this. The big thing is I can't throw myself under defensive orders. Not such a big deal. I don't expect the Cav to hit me there. 6th Corps, these guys, they were supposed to dig in. They were supposed to dig in. And they're not doing that now. And 5th Corps, I really do want the commander up there to direct the battle up there. So that's stuff I have to kind of try to remember. Howard, he ran back to try to deal with von Steinwehr here. He could have stayed up there and stayed in command of the battlefield. But the thing is, it's really, really unlikely to get your command in place. And the units that are kind of close to the enemy, they're not totally useless by being there. You know, these guys are providing some support, and they're actually causing a real problem to Heath. But Heath may be able to escape. Like, he's got his division cut in half right now. That's horrible. But Howard has, like, run away far enough that he can't give orders. So, yeah. Anything else of great interest? I don't think so. I think I'm kind of, like, keyed up. Because I enjoy the command part of it, to a certain extent. A fair extent. I'm making my big decisions at that point. But then when it comes to the tactical, I know that's going to be kind of a nightmare, and I don't want to delve into that quite yet. I'm kind of hungry, so I think I'm going to poach myself an egg, and then probably go back to sleep. How tired though I am. It's been a couple hours. Still haven't been able to fall back asleep. And I'm just like, okay, let's do some. So it looks like Lee did not commit any points, or doesn't have any he wants to commit. And I'm going to commit 1 point for the Union. It's possible that there might be something that you can do with those points other than this. I mean, you can move the general, but you can do that anyway. And that's going to give a Union initiative. So I'll finally move into the 9 o'clock turn because that represents the initiative. That gives me a 1 shot to trigger something. And it's kind of interesting because there may be chits that I want to fire off. For example, 11th Corps down here. But I also have to contemplate the possibility, I can't move all of it, but I can move one of those 2 divisions there and get them into contact with Heath and cause issues. It may also behoove me to fire off something of 1st Corps and try to get the hell out of the way. At the very least, I can get Reynolds out of there. It's kind of hard, though, and it's the problem with pulsing and chip pull and all that. So I want to move Reynolds somewhere, right? Maybe, you know? I don't want him there. But I don't know where Howard, for example, or, you know, some other commander is going to be. And I don't know where it's going to be safe to be because I'm not moving other units. And I've used up my Reynolds command points. So I can't, like, if I had an extra command point, I could move him now and then move him again later. But I don't have that option. I've got to make a good guess as to where it's safe for him to be and useful. For 11th Corps, because these 2 divisions, they're in the cup. I would have to pull from the cup, and I've got a fair amount of shit in there that'll do me no good at all. So I think I'll end up picking one of the 1st Corps units that's under defensive orders. And that gives me a better idea of where Reynolds can safely go, and Doubleday for that matter too. Gods, I forgot how painful this system is. So with the defend orders, they could barely move. This guy could move a hex. The artillery, of course, was trapped within zones, couldn't get away. A unit stacked under it, another unit fell away. It ended up being an even battle, even though I had, you know, artillery next to the enemy. And the Confederates ended up winning it by a point. Both sides, you know, the Union took like 2 cohesion hits per unit for more units. Retreated back here. McLaws moved up here and forced morale checks. The artillery actually survived it, which is kind of impressive, I guess. It means it gets another shot before it dies. But yeah, another unit of Doubleday died. We pulled back to here. I've got Reynolds back here, but that's not really necessarily that safe. I got Heath over there. I don't like being there, but I'm hoping that I can move one of these columns up and protect him on the next activation. But this column actually is directed, so I could move that. Not necessarily the thing I most want to move, though. I may just take the risk. I think that's all that happens is a risk to the general. I'll check that. Looking for that, I find something vaguely related. Officers in retreat. If an officer is stuck with a unit that's either eliminated or forced to retreat, there's a chance he may be captured. I haven't been checking that. I don't know what forced to retreat is. Like, that doesn't sound like I chose to retreat, but... And you can almost always choose to retreat. And then eliminating combat, you jump. But that doesn't cover the case of like, hey, could I just run down here and try to capture him? Because now I know he's there, even though I probably have no clue. You know, he's in the fucking woods here. It's just a few men. Keep looking for it. But my God, this system is so painful. It is so painful. Second place I look is kinds and levels of leaders, and there's no information there. I honestly... Am I allowed to have a leader not on a unit? I don't know. Like, that's not covered here either. Oh wait, we got activity, that's that, special leaders. This just keeps going. A rule for Isaac Trimble. A rule for Porter Alexander. Come on. But I don't know even where to find this. God. We're back in the fun of Summer Storm, aren't we? I think what I'm just going to do is roll a capture attempt and roll a risk to leader with no modifiers, because when I looked over here, I was hoping maybe I would find it here, and there's no risk to general indication there. Actually, it's not even listed in the reasons you'd make a roll for a loss. So, I don't know. I'm definitely feeling that same kind of vibe that I got from Vietnam when it come back to it, which is like, well, I moved a piece. Is that good enough? I mean, I really did. I did one thing. I moved a couple of counters. I caused an attack, and now I'm like, sure, I'm tired to begin with, but I'm just like, yeah, I don't want to face this shit, man. This game is just so fucking awful to play. Like, and some of it is the glossy counters on the Poochie map, you know, trying to use tweezers and whatever doesn't really help. Things just fall down, you know. Just too big. The stacks are too big. They're not huge, but they're too big for glossy counters on a Poochie map. And yeah, these Clash of Arms maps tend to be very, very Poochie. The counters tend to be glossy. I think they always are. The quality of the paper is so wonderful that it's like, these are the maps I least want to put under Plexi out of anything, because they just feel so good to touch. And that's part of why I play a physical game, right? But the reality is they just don't lay flat. And of course, it doesn't help that I have a little bit of a sloping going on, because my tables don't quite fit together. But you know, compare that to, like, yeah, again, the OCS stuff. I had that over tables and whatnot. The SPI Central Front game was covering several tables. A little bit of pooch. The only map that had the pooch was actually the Hot Gap map. because they used a higher quality paper. Again, use the thicker paper. It doesn't lay flat the same way. Of course, it also doesn't rip as easily. I don't know if I have it in me to roll another action. In fact, I think I don't. So yeah, I moved a piece. That's it. It's a little after 4 p.m. I came up here at 4. Did an attack by McLaw's division. Maybe was a little unwise with it. I had to do the attack. His unit is now shaken. He's taken some significant hits. I think he's worn out at this point. Wiped out some Doubleday guns here and pushed him back. I'm not actually advancing because I'm kind of scared to keep fighting. Like, I don't want to close, and even though Doubleday's already gone, next turn he might take another defend order and force me to attack again. And I just don't have the oomph left in me to keep fighting. But I made some attacks that were kind of iffy, where I hit with units that were on the edge of flipping over and everything. That ended up throwing me into a shaken state, which is not optimal, obviously. And I'm a little worried, you know. We got, who's back here? That's Wadsworth, I think. It's hard for me to see anything. But honestly, the Union just wants to get out of there. They don't want to keep fighting up there. So if they get a chance, they will. I completely fucked up. I forgot what I'm supposed to be doing here in terms of how these are supposed to be allocated. So I did Doubleday already. I kind of cheated with that. But these others should be in the fucking cup. I forgot how defensive orders work. I shouldn't have been able to pick the unit that I moved, but that's fine. And that's putting me in the position of, look, you know, unless I really want to move 12th Corps, the only thing I have are in the cup. So I'll draw and see what comes up. And let's see. Okay, we get good old Kilpatrick, who, God knows what I want to do with him. He's up here. I mean, I could try keeping contact with Stuart, but Stuart can turn and fight me. I might be better off moving up to try to support Greg. Simply finding it impossible to keep my brigades together. So I've got like Custer here, some Custer here, some Farnsworth here, some Farnsworth here. I just cannot keep my units. Like, you give me too many pieces, right? That can move independently, and they're going to do things that are independent. This is why I like the extended lines better in the CWB type situation. Anyway, didn't get a lot of movement and shifting there. What it feels like is that I'm just fucking ignoring, you know, some of the rules you're supposed to follow, because it's just, the game is too burdensome. It is just too cumbersome to deal with. And in terms of support and whatnot, well, I'll pay the price if I can't keep my units in order. Anyway, we got a Confederate activation now. The same kind of burden is this, you know, hey, defensive units have a counter in here and a counter in here. Attack units direct command are not in there. Move mode is not in there. Build is, I think, in there. Reserve, I don't fucking know. R&R is in there. It's just like, good God, come up with one fucking basic system that works, right? And then there are different costs based on different turns and all kind of shit like that. And it's also carefully tailored to make sure that it's getting everything precisely right in terms of like, you know, what the balance should be for making an attack order, making a defend order, whatnot. It's just like every fucking bit of this game is just so painful in so many ways. I know I kind of enjoyed the command phase. I probably fucked some things up simply because anytime that I find myself enjoying something in this game, I realize that, oh, I was neglecting parts of that. Also really confused why I have all of Second Corps sitting here in direct orders as opposed to attack orders. I thought I paid attack orders on all of them. I guess I didn't. Because he didn't have a hell shitload of points, but he had enough. Like, he's still at 7. He had enough. He could have spent 3 more to throw himself into the attack a little bit more heavily. And I feel like instead I'm just delaying. And I don't know. I don't think I was up around 13. Although something was, that would probably be First Corps. I don't know why I made that choice. That's, like, my intention should be to drive Third Corps from the field. And without the bonus of the attack orders, my attacks can still happen, but they're not going to be as effective. The attack order allows me to basically conduct a more intensive assault. And yeah, I'm really unsure what the hell I thought I was doing. The laws and the way I changed Anderson's axis of advance to move in, kind of take Heath's place, pushing along Harris Ridge, since it's not completely clear yet, and we got 11th Corps there and everything. So I just basically swung him from up there over to the other side of Pender. Pender is not planning on attacking. This was a chit pull. And I mean, it's not like when I picked something and chose it, it's not like I couldn't have chit pulled it conceivably, but it's like I still was violating. You know, I should have been pulling and maybe getting some random command instead. Out of command rules for these guys, I moved Heath. He's falling back here. These guys get 1 less activation level. So they're getting like 2 movement points. I already moved them. And maybe losing this artillery, but they've got to try to get back in command, but they're so cut off. It's hard to tell what constitutes a reasonable attempt. Do I have to come around this way? I'm going to try to come up this way because I feel like Wadsworth's going to get driven out of the way. Regularly finding artillery pieces that I've forgotten to unflip as I operate. You know, like this guy should be unflipped. This guy should be unflipped. But now I gotta paw in and try to do that. Apparently last turn I left this whole section flipped over. I don't know, I was finding them here too, so who the hell knows. But it's really a painful system in so many different ways. Now that I stopped to think about it, I probably ought to launch a barrage of artillery up there at Hayes. He's sitting up there. He doesn't want to because I know that means a rules lookup. I've got to reread the artillery rules because I'm not sure how many guns I can fire at once in one set like that. Do they, does it have to be just adjacent pairs, whatever? All kind of complexity there. But, that's just okay. I know that I have to look it up. I'm just too fucking lazy to want to. Yeah, you knew it was complicated. Artillery units belonging to the same battery or brigade may combine their fire as long as they're no more than 2 hexes apart. If belonging to different batteries or brigades, they may only combine fire from 2 hexes apart if one of them is stacked with a corps of artillery officers. Otherwise, units from different batteries and brigades must be adjacent to combine fire. No more than 3 hexes containing artillery may combine They're strengthened to a single attack, exception mass bombardment. Additional units must make a separate attack even if the same target, and these are sequential. Okay. Really, maybe it would have been better to fire before I moved, but I wanted to see where I was going to move before I fired. Like, I just don't think about that kind of flexibility. It's like, I get used to move then fire. Well, okay. I don't know how much difference it made. It was actually a very effective fire. Did 2 cohesion hits. Then the morale check did another one. Knocked both these haze units down. One thing that is oddly missing in this game is the concept of density. If you're firing into a hex that has, a lot of strength points or a lot of counters or something, it should be counters because strength points are not manpower. The counters are closer to the manpower levels. If it has a lot of counters in the hex, you feel like there should be an effect, certainly on a bombardment. I don't know so much in the melee. Well, whatever the combat is, because it's not just melee. Hey, Reynolds got away safely because these guys couldn't move very fast. Awesome. I don't think, like, they wouldn't have been allowed to go chasing after him. That would not be trying to get back in command. So he's pretty safe behind his, he's behind his lines. It's just these guys are behind his lines too. All right. I'm going to call it there because it was like 4:30 last time I looked. 5 o'clock is raid time. It's got to be coming soon. I actually got quite a bit done as far as I'm concerned. Not in terms of cutting through the turn, but, I didn't just move one division, right? I did like 6 or 7, which, yeah, that feels not bad. But again, it's very much like that Vietnam experience where I'm like, just look how long this is gonna fucking take. It's ridiculous. I'm like, not even noon on the first day, and everybody's moving, everybody's on the board already. First of all, that's part of it, but also there's just so much effort in terms of conducting any kind of situation where you're engaged with the units. And again, the poochiness of the map, I have units, we get a little bit of slippage here. That's not a big deal, but I try to fix it. It pooches again. We got some here. It happens all over the place. Well, here we are late at night, I guess on Tuesday. Completely wasted day for me because yesterday, well, aren't they all? Yesterday, I had an engagement, right? Like, went for a walk with someone, basically. And that only took a couple hours, but it threw everything out of whack because anytime I have to do something a little different or whatever, it fucks with my scheduling, and I also end up worrying about it and whatnot. So yeah, it's like, I don't know, probably 11 p.m. at this point, and I've got nothing done. On the bright side, my lighter was found. I don't have it yet. I'll get it back on Friday, but yeah, it fell out of my pocket into the car that I got to ride home on. I guess we'll try. And one of the problems, going for the walk physically, it was just a couple hour walk, but it, wiped me out. I think some of it was just the walk, right? Like, I'm not used to doing anything anymore. But some of it was also interacting with another human for that much time, which is also exhausting for me. At this point, I'm just so unused to it. But yeah, it's kind of getting in my way because I really need to go shopping. It seems like the story of my life. Yeah, every few weeks, I gotta get food. And I, as always, push it too late. And now the weather is kind of warmer. Anyway, I'm going to try to get a couple more activations in, see where we're going. This is... The game is very painful. I've expressed that. I expressed this sort of hatred for how painful it is. The truth of the matter is, though, it hasn't yet completely lost me. And some of that may be that the storyline is more coherent to me than the Vietnam one. That was always the problem in Vietnam. Not only is it a painful and difficult game to play, but I had a hard time distilling the storyline from that mass of like activity that's like doesn't feel like it's really directed at anything on both sides. So we'll see where I'm going with this. You know, part of me is just saying you should quit this. You're not getting the pleasure that you should out of it, but I'm not getting a pleasure that's equivalent to the amount of effort I'm putting in. But on the other hand, I'm getting some, and I think some is all we can ever really expect out of anything anymore. And it's eating up time. One action and a couple of attacks by Hood up here. Destroyed another unit of Wadsworth, drove a unit back. First Corps is pretty much gone. And I'm almost out of tea, so I'll probably take a bit of a break to brew another cup, or to get another cup of brewing. But I'll be back up after that. But you know, one of the things that I am kind of curious about, one, will the Union Army break on the first day? And can I throw myself into reserves and whatnot in such a way that I can save myself? At what point do I have to start doing that? I have a lot of corps, so my army has a lot of resilience in a way. Well, I have a lot of divisions, so my army has a lot more resilience than actually the Confederate Army does, if it comes down to it. But so far I haven't been regaining any points. The other question is, if I do make it through this first day, can the Union Army reconstitute itself to fight the full 3 days after a defeat of this, you know, of this significance? And how much more is this than the actual? First day, 1st Corps was pretty badly mauled. First day, 11th Corps, which is about equivalent to 3rd, was pretty badly mauled. I'm not really seeing much difference, except that the Union forces are, the engagement has happened a little quicker, more quickly. The Confederates are all on the board. The Union is mostly on the board, but struggling to get, you know, everything into place where they want it. All right, I'll be back. Right, looking again at, you know, the annoying levels of and manipulation of the game addition, whatever, that you have to take. First of all, I forgot to mark Hood for his attack orders. Just all this shit you have to remember at all times. And maybe I'm forgetting some stuff out of some of the patterns that I have. And that's just lost. Like, that won't happen in the system anymore. Like, parts of the rules just might become deleted because they're just so many little pieces. But some things like that, yeah, I know that I'm supposed to do that. It's just there's all these little steps that is way more than I'm comfortable with in a game. But then here, I've got like 1, 2, 3, 4 stacks I have to paw through, plus this, but I think that artillery was fired. The indication of whether or not you used artillery is just, again, so painful that I had these flipped over. I suspect I might have fired during a defensive turn by one of the Union units. So I'm like, I'm not going to apply the artillery. But I've got a pretty large bonus coming in on this. And I'm hoping it's going to be a good attack. Now, Pender's not in great shape. He's not under attack orders, so he doesn't get penalized for that. But it could end up with kind of shitty odds, even with this huge attack here on a 12 to 1, against 12 strength points. These are fresh units of somebody's, I can't tell who. It looks like it might be Doubleday. Between the glare off the glossy counters, my bad glasses. And again, I got another pair up there. I could put them on, but I got to paw through stuff so much, I don't know. Got a 2 cohesion hit advantage here. That means Confederates rolled doubles. They might have had to make an artillery check, but again, the artillery wasn't in it. That means very low chance of Pender getting hurt. He's fine. But here's the thing. Now I have to go to the rules and compare all the different options I have before taking my morale check. My morale check there right now would be a 3. Minus 2 for the hits is a 1. I think that's the only thing that affects it. This is, if it's Doubleday, he's fine. So I think I'd have a base of 1. Wait, no, minus 2 more for being in a zone of control. Now, I know I have the option to retreat, but I will take hits for retreating through the zone of control. But I will probably have to retreat through the zone of control overall. And I have to kind of assess all the odds of all these different little things. It reminds me, there was a discussion in ASL that came up. Now, I don't really remember this in ASL, but I never played it at all seriously. I played a big game of it and a few things to practice and get into position that I could at least semi-competently play it at the level that other people who aren't really pros at it, whatever, were playing it. But it was that, yeah, if you want to set up defensive fire arcs and whatnot, you have so many different options available that although the rules are all relatively clear, the decision-making burden is really hard on something that is relatively minor, you know? And that's what it feels like here. I have a retreat decision to make. I'm having to make this weird, like, tactical decision way under the level of play as to whether to retreat or not after the combat, something I may be forced to do anyway. I think instead of looking it up, I'm just going to take the hits and I'm going to retreat. But it's like, yeah, if you wanted to play this competently, you could make all kind of judgments like that are just going to really fucking bog everything down in a horrible sort of fashion. As it is, I still have to look up and see what the penalty for retreating through the hex is. I think it's actually 2 cohesion hits and a morale check at like -2, which is pretty much what I'll face here anyway, but I'd have to make it again if I try to stand. Like I'd have to make 2 morale checks or something. So assuming any of the units don't work. And again, that's on a per unit basis, not on like, oh, well, it's the stack stand or whatever. Nah, it doesn't work that way. There's nothing that attempts to simplify in this game, right? Which is why it makes it feel so funny to me that the command system, which I consider far more cumbersome than CWB's, that the designer kind of put forward that, yeah, this is more streamlined than CWB's. And I'm like, that you even had any concept of streamlining the game in your head is beyond belief, to tell you the truth. Suspicion is that what happened is people complained about just how cumbersome this system was out of the playtesters. And that didn't change anything particularly. Instead, the designer glommed onto one thing that he thought he could make an argument about being more streamlined. And maybe had a couple of people who agreed that, yeah, this is much, much simpler than writing orders. Yeah, it's not. It's just not. It is so much more cumbersome. And you know, writing orders in CWB is a matter of the same thing no matter pretty much what you're doing. You write down the order. You might have to figure out some modifiers and everything. I see a little bit of clunkiness there. But here you have like different mechanisms for each of these little boxes, or if it's in the cup or whatever, and some of them are in both and everything. And it's just like, this is not streamlined. This is a fucking like nightmare of a memory burden. Actually, I look at this. Well, Doubleday did get a chit, so I think I might be right about the artillery having fired already. I was looking at it and I'm like, Wadsworth didn't. Yeah, but that's not Wadsworth anymore. That's Doubleday holding that flank now. And of course, Robinson is just gone. I can't find any of his units, which is why I put him over there. He'll come back if he comes back. That's not specified in the rules, but the idea of trying to keep some random commander on the board who doesn't have any units just feels like stupidity to me. The thing is, I actually assigned him defending orders, and I think spent a point on that. I'm going to throw him down here too, just so I don't do anything. Again, I can't find any of his units on the board. Could they be under here? Maybe. I think that's Wadsworth, though. Yeah, that's Wadsworth over here. And we've got a sequence of Union actions that took place. Schurz, I guess it is, up here, pushed forward, trying to keep the connection so that this part of Heath can't, like, get back to its unit easily. Buford came down off the hill. This is Doubleday. Wadsworth pulled back. He only got like a hex of movement out of it. Because I'm in defend orders, which makes it uglier. I could have gone maybe 2-3 hexes otherwise with the die roll I got. 5th Corps heirs, because I'm not under attack orders or anything. Yes, I could stay in place. I could throw more units in and have continued an attack up here. Instead, I pulled back, fired some artillery, and shook this unit up and sent it back. And I think that's about it. And I'm worn out already. Like, I don't feel like I've done a whole hell of a lot. I really don't know why this is. Yeah, I do know why. A lot of what I've expressed, but it feels like it's actually taking more of a toll than it should. And that's kind of the feeling I have, again, with Vietnam, is that, yeah, if I was really enjoying that game, I feel like I would be able to do more. But here, I feel like I'm kind of near the beginning of my Vietnam experience, right? Where it's like the game, not the reality. Where I feel taxed every time I try to do something. The one difference here is the rules are more disunited. Not just disorganized, which they also are, but disunited in the sense that, like, almost once you kind of get used to what you're doing in Vietnam, each action, although it requires a lot of, so that's the thing, it requires a lot of mental decision making to make each action in Vietnam, which is a burden I do not like. Here, instead of that mental decision making, over a kind of amorphous blob, you actually have a relatively good idea of what you want to do, I think. It's just that the burden is just so high in terms of the mechanical aspects of the game. Anyway, we'll keep pressing on, but not right now. One of them pretty sunrises. The smoke does something interesting. It's not real bad right now. Like, I can't smell it when I go outside, but of course. Anyway, I'm back up here, play a couple of actions. I moved part of 11th Corps, Chitpul, and I'll be doing a few more, mainly just because Raid has been very demanding, which is part of why I haven't been playing as well as my natural reluctance to actually play this thing. But yeah, Raid has been requiring a lot from me. And I'll try to get what I can in. The Union unit up here, Caldwell, shifted its facing. Stuart gets the next activation. This is by choice. I'm holding off on all of Ewell's stuff so far. Just like 12th Corps is holding off on its choices. For no real apparent reason, but anyway. I got interesting choices with Stuart. One, I could swing around and come up this way, harass the cav up there, maybe even gain some fighting on it, because I don't want to be attacking Union infantry. But there's another option, which I'm considering, which is swinging down this way to harass and force them to deploy the columns that are coming forward. Not really sure which is more effective. I kind of think delaying is more advantageous. You know, I'm causing delays here, which maybe I want to fall back a little and keep a threat up there, but maybe it makes more sense to swing around and get into that area and create a threat. And then the advantage of being over here as opposed to here. Here I'm kind of, first of all, I'm in danger of being caught from behind and all kind of bad stuff. It's just not going to be good for the cav, I think. The advantage of being over here, although I'm still in kind of this, hey, I could be surrounded, is I can connect up with the Confederate 3rd Corps and support their flank. As opposed, you know, the other option is, of course, I can support the Confederate 2nd Corps' flank over here, where they actually have units that they're fighting right now. As it is, I'm just kind of bopping back and forth doing nothing. I probably should just find some place, go into reserve mode, and start taking the Army bonus for, yeah, we're not really doing anything, and we're not recovering, and we're not happy or anything. What I noticed while I was in the midst of it is I've completely and illegally mixed up my brigades. Which now I'm trying to sort it out, but it's like, fuck, man. I don't know how it happened. I thought I was being careful with it, but apparently I couldn't read them or something. They looked close enough. They don't look close when I'm looking at them here, so now they're kind of intermingled, but they're not at least stacked with each other, which they were. Well, I thought some of these were artillery. They look kind of like artillery with their dot in them. Hey, maybe they are. What the fuck? Yeah, they are fucking artillery. Okay. I don't fucking know anymore. God damn it. All right, I have Beckham here. This looks like normal cav. It's artillery. I don't fucking know. God. The cav and artillery look the same because they're the cross things, right? They don't have any gun marking, but they do have the dot for artillery, I guess. I don't know what the infantry artillery look like. The symbology on these is just so fucking annoying. Is this an artillery? It says AR, so it is, yeah. So these have like a cross going through the unit, but there's no unit for cav. There's just swords. Fucking hell. All right, I have to try to fix all that now, and I don't know what I did wrong. You know, I don't know how to fix what I did wrong. What I noticed was I have Beckham here. Now this has a blue dot, this has a red dot, this has a white dot. I don't know what the fuck the differential is for that. They're all Beckham's artillery. I think maybe one was supposed to be assigned to one unit, one to another, but again, there's no clear indication of why you would choose one over another. Oh, maybe the color of the swords. Like, they don't go into that in the rules. Me having fucked up with Ewell's command and put them all under direct, I honestly think I'm better off not doing anything with them and delaying for a turn. Maybe positioning a little better and getting that attack bonus, although time is of the essence for the Confederates right now. This is when they have their advantage. The Union's in a little bit of disarray. They're trying to swap units in and out. But I also kind of don't want to attack them. I don't necessarily know what their orders are, unless they forced me to attack, which they may have up there. I don't know. Like, it looks like they should have. Not sure why I'm there otherwise. But I'm also not sure why this unit is back here and didn't fall back a hex. Did Humphreys not get drawn yet? I bet you Humphreys didn't get drawn yet. Which means I have to do something about that. Either withdraw from the hex or engage more deeply. Both players have finished up all their commands that they can activate and their cup commands. The Confederates actually had early thrown out of direct command into a cup. One thing that I'm noticing I'm not doing is I'm not firing my artillery at each other. Part of the reason is that can generate counterfire artillery, the counter battery, and it's like, gooky. It is a useful thing to do to soften up the enemy before an attack, but I think the main reason I'm not doing it has nothing to do with reasonable gameplay, but has to do with it's a fucking pain in the ass to cope with the artillery, so I just don't want to deal with it. And I'm finding, you know, much of the system is getting in the way of making any kind of decent play. I'm like, you know, but this is one of the more extreme examples. You know, the Union was like, well, actually the Confederates were first. They moved into place and said, I don't really want to. I fired these artillery. It doesn't do a hell of a lot. It can cause like a morale check or something like that. It could actually cause some cohesion hits. But I felt like the Confederates didn't want to take the counter battery fire when they moved into place. Now for the Union, it's hard to tell with these guys, I don't remember. But when I moved Humphreys, I didn't fire my guns. But again, the Confederates could have fired back, and I'm like, yeah, I don't want my position softened. It's like neither side's firing at the other because they don't want the effects of the counter battery fire. And that has to do something to do with the chit pull, to tell you the truth. If this wasn't chit pull, I think it would happen, but it's that I don't know who's going to go first. And do I really... There's an advantage to firing first in these situations, but not when you're overwhelmed by enemy artillery within range. And it's just like, both are kind of overwhelmed by counter battery capability, right? Because when you fire artillery, all the nearby artillery, not just something that's active right now, can counter battery fire. So like, hey, I get to move one of my divisions and its artillery, and that's maybe a couple pieces of artillery per division. And then, because the density of this conflict up here, that would conceivably allow all the enemy artillery to fire back at those batteries. Not, you know, not necessarily all at one battery, but it means that each of my firing opportunities that I get to initiate the fire seems to have a higher price coming to it. And I can say, oh, well, I'll fire during my counter battery, but then the enemy doesn't fire for the same reasons I didn't fire. Some of it is definitely gameplay. Some of it is also just, I don't really want to deal with it. Like, just like I don't really want to deal with combat. I'm playing a war game, dude. I should be fighting, right? Yeah, but the game is just so unpleasant for handling the combat that I don't fucking want to, so I'm just maneuvering around. We got 12th Corps up here. Anyway, like I said, I'm at a point where I think it's a decent point to stop. I'm about to do all the operational movement. That's not a big deal if I jump into it ahead of time, but again, I just don't want to play this thing. Significantly later, maybe 10 a.m. or so, I don't know. And, you know, I got like an hour and a half snooze, maybe, I don't know. And So I'm back up to do some more. Still gotta go shopping. Could conceivably go in this condition, but it's like, I just don't want to when I've been up all night. I don't like shopping. All right, on with, I guess, the ops movement, and we'll see if we can finish up the turn and get this packaged for you guys. For whatever few of you are still watching this shit. Oh, for the operational movement, first things over here on the operational map for the Confederates. Robertson stayed back. Jones is moving forward. Robertson's staying back to collect up that wagon. If he brings it into here, it gets rid of one of the Confederate penalties. Elsewhere, Merritt has actually left and is now coming on to rejoin with Buford. Huey went and joined with Gregg. I want to get the Union Cav off the map, maybe to harass the Confederate supply situation back there, which might, mean Stuart goes out there and gets rid of a lot of the hassles, because Cav have some funky rules about them, and they're not really terribly effective across the board. They're fine on defense, but they can't really attack. What else? The traffic jam back here is showing effects, but it's beginning to dissipate a little bit, because 11th Corps is moving up here, caught up with Reynolds, getting behind Heath here. This is just ugliness. I don't know the easiest way for... So this is Heath's remainder. The rest of his main division is back here. He's in some serious trouble as 11th is cutting through, the Cav is cutting through here. If I gather these up, Buford may go and try to deal with this. He's not in that bad a shape, actually, considering Heath is in much worse shape after having attacked him. First Corps still in a lot of trouble. 12th has tried to move up already, but you can see Pickett is coming, and that's bad. Now, Union 5th Corps is going to come up and try to cover some of that gap, but that means I can't really get 3rd off the line. I can't get the Cav off the line. 6th Corps, where is he? Sedgwick. Now, he's in some possible danger that the Confederate Cav might run out and try to find him. That's kind of bullshit when it comes down to it, like, but there's not much chance. So it's not that good an opportunity to try to hit someone. 6th Corps is positioned back here trying to set up the defense line, and some more of it is inching its way forward here, just like Gibbons is inching his way forward here. Hayes is coming up here behind Stuart. Stuart's got to get out of there. I mean, I don't know. He can probably hold his own against a Union division by dismounting and just trying to hold ground. But this is not where he wants to be. But I wanted to patrol back here to cause some disruption. I don't really feel like that's going to be too likely, to tell you the truth. I think I should have gone up there. That line mainly static with nary an artillery fire happening. And so that's where we're at the end of this. That's going to put us to, though, the sort of cleanup phase. And the hard part of this is to recover cohesion and adjust morale. Recover cohesion, I think the only thing in R&R is Heath. And he's going to be able to do it, but only for these units, I think. I don't think he can do it with units that are out of command and whatnot. They're also too close to the enemy. And the other side of it is largely going to be about removing the shaken markers, flipping the artillery, all that shit that I'm really bad at getting correct. But it's part of the cost. I forgot about this order, rally. R&R allows you to recover everything in a division, I think. All non-shaken units lose 1 cohesion hit for each hit, and the division's morale is raised by the DMF. But there's also the rally order, which I forgot about. It costs 1 command point per brigade spent during the action phase. Individual brigades, which is multiple counters, right? Or units may be given a rally order and pulled off the line. Such units get half normal movement, must attempt to get outside enemy zone of influence, and at the end of their movement are marked with an ammo resupply marker, which are these orange things. Yeah, and then they'll have an opportunity to get their points back. But they have to make a morale check to get them back. These guys, I don't know if they do. I'm looking. The rules aren't under the supply wagon's optional rules. They may be sprinkled everywhere else. I thought you had to make a morale check for anything, but it may just be through the rally orders that it provides an extra penalty if they don't have the resupply option. So I thought I was going to have to make a lot of checks for these guys. Well, kind of means that those supply wagons for the divisions are a lot less important than I thought they would be. They're going to be important for building, and they're going to be important for resupplying artillery and recovering cohesion hits on artillery, but I guess not. We can look here. Wait, no. Optional rule, when attempting to resupply artillery or reduce C hits for infantry cavalry under R&R rules. Now this says C 10.55. Unfortunately, 10.55 is just the ammo resupply, I think, for that. Now, optional rule. I assume it works the same, more or less, that they just have to make a supply check even now. So, I don't know. You know, like I said, some places where it says one thing, some where it doesn't. So under the R&R rules, it doesn't say that you have to roll. Under the rule that it sent me to, it doesn't say it. But this does say that R&R rules orders require that I check this. Now, otherwise, the cohesion hit through rally sent me there. That's how I found out rally was a thing again. I had completely misplaced that from my head. I forgot that you have to mark things under an ammo resupply to check them here. But essentially, it's the same thing as the R&R in terms of what I would have had to do. So I'm going to just pretend that I have a resupply marker there and do it. Now, these have to make morale checks, and one thing you can see with the morale checks, I removed the shaken afterwards. Is that the right order? Yeah, it's recover cohesion, then adjust morale. We had a couple of units become shaken. This one became shaken, but to no effect. It would remove it right afterwards. But this one was already shaken, made its morale check, failed, lost more cohesion hits. So it's like it's getting more stragglers as it goes. It all like makes sense. It's just so many little steps and so many little pieces of information that the story is getting too rich to follow, essentially, in some ways. It's just, you're having to work too many things. Kind of reminds me of Squad Leader in that. Like, some of that, for me, was always, there just was too much information about something I'm uninterested in. This, I'm interested in what's going on, but it's just such a burden of information that, like, yeah, I didn't know this would happen to me if you weighed me down with so much information. Like, but it's just too many mechanical actions. Comes one of the other things. I can't remove the first cohesion hit ever. These both had 1 on them. Tiny little piece of, you know, yeah, units would be a little, like the idea that units took some casualties, took some damage. I don't know so much with artillery, but that units took some casualties, some damage, that's just not recoverable. Makes some sense. That's why it's in Banish All Their Fears. But in terms of like playability, hey, I've checked these, checked their morale, went and rolled them. Yes, I should have checked to see if they had just 1 cohesion hit, but that's yet another step, and I thought they had been beaten up more than that. They weren't. So, you know, I wasted time on doing that, and that, so much of this game is like that. There's all these tiny levers that I have. Like I could leave 1 unit out of, you know, the battle line and slowly recover that. But it costs me a command point for each brigade, you know, to do it. And then put the markers out on it or whatever. But again, it makes sense, and maybe you'd want to do that if you're defending an important area. Pulling a brigade off the line is a much, much lesser factor than pulling a division off the line. Of course, playing CWB, what do you do in the similar case? First of all, there are real casualties in CWB. There are no real casualties here unless a unit goes in there, in which case it kind of, like at night, part of it disappears essentially. Or that first hit on each unit. Otherwise, everything's just kind of in this weird abstract zone. But there are real casualties in CWB, and there are stragglers. And the stragglers come back at a rate, if they're in the right place, you just put a straggler recovery marker. You don't have to fiddle around with, oh yeah, I'm going to order him this turn to recover stragglers. It's just a smoother, simpler thing. And I kind of wonder how much the commander has to actually keep telling a unit. Now, maybe I'm missing something there. Maybe the rally order is like some of, you know, it's its own order. Like it's the only order that doesn't affect a division. It affects brigade by brigade. It is done during the action phase, yet it's under the orders, which is kind of part of why I forgot it, right? Can it just keep that ammo supply room marker? The marker is removed after the morale check, regardless of the outcome. So no. So you, as the commander, you order the individual brigade to go back and recover stragglers, and then you have to send it another order, essentially. Whatever those points mean, right? You have to be in command, and the divisional commander. Well, actually, it's not the divisional commander. The corps commander has to send the brigade an order to recover Jones's brigade yet again this turn. Don't let them back in the line. They're still tired. This is not, it doesn't even make sense, right? It really doesn't, because it's not the divisional commander who's expending any effort on it. Whereas it's the divisional commander who's actually making that decision of how do I best hold this ground. I'm sure they don't go back to the corps. You know, I'm sure they don't wait for the corps commander to tell them, you know, Jones is looking a little tired up there. Maybe you should swap him out. And then an hour later, Jones still could use some more reinforcements. Good Lord. Yeah. It doesn't even connect and make sense. It's just sort of this, hey, we've got a cost for lots of things, let's impose a cost for this. I kind of get the cost for the first time, but again, it's being applied at the wrong level simply because there's no way to apply it at the other level. And it would be a real, so here's the thing, if it didn't have a cost, you would never have to go into R&R orders. But let's say instead what it said was, each division can put one of its brigades under a resupply order, or whatever it's called, a rally order. Each brigade can do, or each division can do it for one of its brigades, and it's just one of the things it's allowed to do. And it allows a division to entirely, you know, if it gets knocked down to a single brigade, to entirely go into that rally phase. Oh, big deal. But it also, you know, takes away some of the complexity and some of the annoyance of this. But again, it's this other little tiny lever that you can play around with if you wish to, at a high cost, for some reason going to the corps commander. We can look at another fundamental inconsistency. Wadsworth is up here. I would love to be able to fall back more than I was able to. The Shaken unit can fall back in order to rally. It did that and failed its rally check and fell back even more after taking a cohesion hit. Or maybe it didn't need to fall back. I think it didn't need to. It was here. To begin with, but then had to fall back after that. But I can't fall back with these units at the same time because they're not shaken. They're in good order, therefore they will not follow, you know, my desires to move faster backwards than they were able to. Again, you can make some little arguments about it, but it just feels, it's kind of like the attack an empty hex in OCS. You feel like, yeah, you should be able to fall back one more hex, whether you're shaken or not, if that's what the commander really wants to do. I'm hunting down units and flipping things, and it's just miserable. There was no pressure at all. One of these stacks, and it's another of the pains, I had to pull this stack out of there. It had 3 more counters in it when I pulled it. No, make that 1, 2, 4 more counters in it because 2 shaken markers. Okay, so one of the units recovered its morale. I couldn't really retreat. Things are too dense. Actually, there's a space there, but God knows I can't see. Yeah, I might have wanted to retreat, but they were also the front line. Anyway. One of the units got a good roll, one of the units got a shitty roll. The unit with the shitty roll was already flipped over with 4 hits on it, so it just dissolved. So in the face of like the enemy doing nothing and just regrouping, they just collapsed completely. Which is cool because otherwise I would have retreated them through here because I didn't see this hex because things are too crowded and messy. I do find it harder, like these hexes feel just a little bit smaller than, they're not like those, which are too small to use, but these feel smaller than I'm used to. I don't know if they actually are. You know what? Why don't we take a look? First thing I looked at was To the Green Fields Beyond, which unfortunately has relatively big hexes, and I could tell right away that that's not acceptable. These, I think these are standard SPI hexes from Bloody April, probably about the same size as TSS. I think they're a little teeny bit bigger, which is what I suspected. It's hard to tell. It's close, but it means that the game is a little bit more packed. The counters are the same size. Of course, they're crappy glossy ones, but yeah. I think I've done everyone. Again, I probably failed, but whatever. We'll live with that. This is a little easier because of the way the gamers cut their maps. It's pretty damn close to the normal size. So I don't know. It could. I don't have a good X. And yeah, this is the hideousness of the CWB maps with lots of terrain on them. Thunder at the Crossroads isn't this ugly, but Shiloh is nasty. And then point degradation, no change in weather. We go to the 10 a.m. turn. I've got some points that I committed for the Confederates. Let me see, did the Union commit any? Yeah, the Union's got some as well. So, pre-planning points, whatever. All right, that's the end of the 9 a.m. turn.